What is up, good people of the internet? It's your girl Ego Dram. I've been having an interesting time of things lately. My laptop died. My backup laptop is about to die. I'm struggling to find myself a new computer in a reasonable amount of time. And oh boy, a bunch of other stuff. But into the topic of today's video. If you're not familiar with me or with my content, I go by the handle Ego Drum. I'm an artist, sometimes a poet, but I'm also an Iraq veteran. My unit was one of the last to deploy to Iraq under OIF. While I was deployed in Iraq, I took a bit of a nasty bonk on the head. Earlier this year, I was diagnosed with something called focal epilepsy. And what that means is I have a particular kind of seizure that doesn't look like what you would expect a seizure to look like. When most people think epilepsy or seizures, they think of someone falling over, shaking, maybe foaming at the mouth or what have you, pissing themselves. Focal seizures are called focal seizures because they focus in one specific area of the brain and usually stay there. And they tend to look very radically different from what they used to call a grand mal seizure, but what they now call tonic-clonic seizures. I don't name these things, it's just what they call them. The TBI that I sustained while I was deployed in Iraq, on the left temporal lobe of my brain here, is where my focal seizures are starting, my left temporal lobe. Sometime around 2019, I started having what I call brain blank moments, where I would say I'd be sitting at my computer 1 minute and I get up to go to the bathroom, but then I wind up in the kitchen for some strange reason. Not going to the bathroom in the kitchen, thankfully. Or someone would be having a conversation with me that I'd be participating in, and it's like a huge chunk of that conversation gets fuzzy or like it never happened. So I had thought, right, something's not quite right. Then I remembered the TBI that I sustained from the MST while I was deployed. And I thought, well, that situation was already shitty enough. What if I took brain damage? What if it did something to my brain that's causing this to happen, or was already bad enough, and what if it's getting worse? Late last year, my husband encouraged me to talk to the VA to try to get a screening or a test of some sort to see if I had brain damage, at least that they could detect. So they referred me outpatient to a neurologist in another state, thankfully not too long of a drive. The day of the appointment, and I'm sitting in her office and I'm explaining, what my symptoms are, my brain blank moments, coming back to my senses in a completely different ass part of my house. And at some point, I forgot where that conversation dropped off, but at some point, things went off. And the next thing I know, she's sitting in her chair, staring right at me with her hand on her watch, like she's counting for something, and she is just staring at me like a hawk. And I'm like, oh yeah, what the hell just happened? Why are you looking at me like that? And just a little, freaking me out a little. And she said, I think you just had a seizure. What? But I didn't lose consciousness. I didn't shake. I didn't fall over. I've seen someone have a seizure. That wasn't a seizure. She's just like, no, I'm pretty sure you had a seizure. You can have seizures without losing consciousness. I didn't realize that this was even possible for that to happen, but apparently it is. She thought that I was having, at first she thought it was what's called a generalized absence seizure. There's sort of a really minor sort of mini seizure where you just kind of lose small moments where time seems to skip. She put me in for an EEG, not an EKG, EEG, and 2 MRIs, regular old MRI and a contrast MRI. And about a month later, those tests were done. The EEG was not fun. They made me lie in a bed, they put electrodes all over my head, and then they flashed bright lights, like right into my eyes. It was actually quite painful, because apparently flashing lights can set off seizures in some people. I don't remember much about that part of the test. The MRI, not fun. I'm a little bit claustrophobic. And the MRI machine sounds like a helicopter. Me no likey helicopters. No. Wasn't a fan of them in the first place. Iraq certainly didn't help that at all. See, these tests started end of November. And I want to say it wasn't until January that I was able to have like a a FaceTime meeting with the neurologist where she explained, yes, you are in fact epileptic. The thing is that in between that appointment where she was watching me and hearing her say it, I didn't want to believe it. It made sense, but it didn't make sense at the same time because I had no idea of the nature of the condition itself, what epilepsy actually is. See, epilepsy is an electrical, kind of like a misfire, like a glitch. It's a neurological condition, not a psychological condition. A short circuit of sorts in the brain itself, either in one particular location or over the surface of the entire goddamn thing. Like I said earlier, mine are focal. They start and they stay right around here, right around the same spot where my head forcibly met into a solid object, blunt force trauma. What I really wasn't expecting, and you wouldn't think it, okay, epilepsy and a mild form of epilepsy at the absolute worst. What's the big deal? What's the issue? I didn't realize how this would impact my day-to-day life until basically the neurologist read me a list of sorts of shit I cannot do or can't do temporarily. I have to be supervised while cooking my own food, especially handling knives like to cut vegetables and whatnot, because, you know, I have a seizure. I don't want to drop the knife and hurt myself or whatnot. I can't climb ladders, which my house is one floor anyway, so there's no real need. I also can't do staircases without physically holding onto a railing or something. My house is only one floor, but I have to take a staircase back down to my backyard. I take elevators whenever possible. The biggest kick in the bits, and I understand why, but it still fucked with me, was I can't drive, at least temporarily. And again, like logically, I understand that having a seizure while behind the wheel is incredibly dangerous, and obviously nobody wants that. I don't want that. I don't want to accidentally hurt somebody or kill somebody. I don't want that. I am unable to drive for a minimum of 6 months, as per my doctor's orders, after the date of my last seizure. Now, at present, if I can hold it out for 2 more months, as of today, the 1st of August, 2023, then I should be okay to start driving again. I'll probably just do small little trips down a block to start back up again. Being told you can't drive anymore, even though I've never been in an accident while behind the wheel, ever. It hurt. You lose like that autonomy, that freedom to go where you want, when you want, get to work, go get your own stuff, go do your in-town tasks on your own terms. And that was like, I don't like having to rely on other people. Now, my husband is wonderful and he's been very supportive and he's been with me through all of this, both before and after my diagnosis. And I really appreciate his support, but I have that independent streak in me. I don't like having to rely on other people for anything if it can be helped, but it can't be helped. The shittiest thing about realizing that what I had are seizures is every time it happens, I'm reminded of why it's happening. Now, I am trying to convince the neurologist to nail down that the MST is what caused this to happen, because my seizures are starting in the exact same area of my brain that got hit. But it's rough. I never had this problem before this happened. I never had these seizures before this happened. And it's the exact same spot on my left temporal lobe. Talk to any veteran in your life, or if you are a veteran, good luck getting anything done through the VA. So what are some things about epilepsy that nobody tells you? What it's like to experience a focal seizure is that I am conscious. I don't go unconscious. I don't fall asleep or fall over. I might bump into something. Some people's focal seizures, people make involuntary movements with their arms, or they purse their lips and make sounds with their mouth. My focal seizures look like I'm staring off, like through somebody or through something. And also, apparently, my hand will do this kind of like Brittany Murphy in that movie kind of shit, or sometimes flexing a fist really fast. And I don't even realize it's happening while it's happening. it's like you're walking, it's like a cutscene in a video game that didn't quite buffer properly before it was kicked off. There's nothing you can do about it. It only lasts a moment. You're not sure exactly what's going on, but next thing you know, you're in the next scene and like, okay, what the hell am I supposed to do now? Focal seizures in particular have been sometimes mistaken for intoxication or mental instability. It's not really a type of epilepsy that people would recognize. So there have been situations where people have focal seizures and cops don't understand what's happening. And situations have ended badly. Why would I, a cisgender white woman, be afraid of interacting with police? Because if they see me have one and think that I'm intoxicated, that could end very badly for me. Also, something I learned about being epileptic, especially for some people whose seizures start in the left hemisphere of their brain, is difficulty speaking. Sometimes there are moments where, like, I'm having a conversation with someone. In one of my more recent videos where I did a makeup get ready with me, this happened a couple of times where I would be speaking and mid-sentence the words in my head just don't exist. Everything I was about to say to recite a line and then words just don't work. Everything just freezes and it'll stay frozen for like a minute or two for me. Although some other people with epilepsy that I've spoken to will say that they can't talk for like up to a half hour after having one of those moments. It's not a precursor necessarily for having a seizure, but it happens sometimes, seemingly at random, especially if I'm feeling excited or nervous or scared, but sometimes I could otherwise be having a decent day and it will still happen. Like I'll be talking and then it's like I get caught up in my own mouth. Another thing about epilepsy, this is an interesting term, is called an aura. No, it's not psychic new agey crystal shit. An aura is a feeling or a sensation that some people with epilepsy swear they feel just as they're about to have a seizure. I don't get auras. I don't get a feeling or a sensation or like a warning in the back of my head that it's about to happen. But apparently what will happen sometimes, so people have told me, is that my hand will start doing the flexing thing. And then I'll just go blank and then start speaking nonsense or saying sounds that aren't actually words and wandering off while it's happening. But it's been 4 months since I've had one. I am on a very high dose of a medication originally developed for epilepsy, but also commonly prescribed for mental health issues such as CPTSD, mood disorders, bipolar disorder is a pretty common one. I am convinced that it was the TBI in Iraq that caused this. It's because every time I have a seizure, I have to remember what happened. I have to remember the MST. Every time I come out of a seizure, I'm immediately reminded of one of the worst things that's ever happened to me in my life. And I hate that, but the hardest part was accepting that this is my brain now, this is my life, and there's damn near nothing I can do about it. There is no cure for epilepsy. None. It just, if you have it, you have it, and you're going to have it. There's no getting rid of it. You can go on medication and treatments and whatnot to slow it down or minimize how severe they might be, but you will never, ever, ever, ever be cured of it because it's a physical issue with the brain itself. So yeah, that's my life with epilepsy. I hope this video was educational, informative for some of you. I am still learning and I am still getting used to this being my life from now on, but so far I'm stable. So far I have yet to be injured, and I hope I'm on the right track to stabilizing myself to the best of my ability, okay? I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Please be good to each other and have some bubbles on the way out. Nobody hates bubbles. Bye-bye.